Last Sunday, we celebrated Easter, when Jesus rose from the dead. His disciples were happy, especially after Friday. Jesus was crucified on the cross. Now they knew Jesus is who he said he was. He rose from the dead. And those who believe in him, they believe that he died on the cross to pay for their sins. Well, one day, that's right, go and be with him to that place that he's prepared for them. But while we're here on earth, we need to follow some rules, don't we? And God did make some rules. That's right, called the Ten Commandments. I wonder which one is the most important commandment to obey. Well, Jesus once told a story to a lawyer. And a lawyer is someone who studies the law. That's right, he knows the law, the rules to live by. Well, he came up to Jesus and said, "What do I do to get to heaven?" And Jesus said, "What do the commandments say? Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind and all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself." And Jesus said, "You have answered correctly. Now go and do it, and you shall live." Well, the lawyer wanted to justify himself. That means feel good about himself. And he said, "Well, who is my neighbor?" Well, Jesus answered him and told him a story. The story was about a man who traveled from Jerusalem down into Jericho. And while he was on traveling into Jericho, two robbers came up and they beat him up. And they stole his money. They stole his clothes even. And they left him lying on the road, all beat up and looking half dead. Oh no, who would save this man? Well, a priest came walking by, and he walked on the other side of the road and pretended that he didn't even see him. Oh my goodness. And then a Levite came by. Do you know what a Levite is? That's a man who works in the temple. So he knows the law. He knows what God says. But guess what? He did the same thing. He ignored him and walked on the other side of the road. But then there came a Samaritan. You know, a Samaritan, well, the Jewish people didn't like the Samaritans very much, but it was actually a Samaritan who came by. That's right. And he had compassion on the man who was beat up on the side of the road. He knelt down and he washed his wounds with oil and wine. And then he took him onto his donkey. And he's going to go find a place for him in the inn. The Samaritan brought him to the inn. The innkeeper was paid 2 denarii. And when the Samaritan left, he said, "I want you to continue to take care of this man. And however much more it costs you, I will repay you when I return." So then Jesus asked the lawyer, "Which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among robbers?" And the lawyer said, "The one who showed him mercy." He says, "You go and do the same." Well, that is a parable that Jesus taught called the Good Samaritan to help us to learn what it's like, but to obey the commandments all the time. No one can do that. I can't do that. And that's why we need a Savior. That's why Jesus died on the cross. Who is Jesus? Jesus is the Son of God. He came from heaven to earth. He lived a perfect life. He died on the cross to pay for our sins. He rose from the dead. He's in heaven now, preparing a place for us. That's right, for those who will believe and put their trust in him.